If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and you are listening to the Columbine Conspiracy Series. This is episode 12, The Roof Activity. There's been much reported and speculated about possible shooters on the roof. 1 or 2 or even 3 figures spotted on the roof, sometimes with a gun, sometimes not, by quite a lot of individuals. Of course, there's helicopter footage, but was there other footage as well? Why has everything been under lock and key, particularly if there was nobody on the roof? I mean, it's very, very curious how the coincidence theorists defend keeping all of this video footage. I mean, public news footage. I mean, if somebody recorded it on their VCR back in 1999, they would still have it. You would have to think someone somewhere might have a copy of all of this footage. Now, obviously, it makes sense not to release and publicize footage of bodies and shooting, etc. But what about the roof where supposedly nobody's even on? If nothing's going on to obviously be able to disprove any kind of multiple shooter theory, what would be the danger in releasing footage of a bare roof with no one on it? The coincidence theorists, of course, have no answer for that. The cult of authority worship and Stockholm Syndrome has a firm grip on those who put blind faith in the idiot box, despite thousands of documents released showcasing many anomalies. I mean, there's over 100 accounts that we went over in previous episodes. Make sure you check those out if you haven't checked those out yet. Multiple shooters, even victims stating that they were shot by other individuals, not Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. Yet the coincidence theorists hallucinate. None of these documents exist. None of them have been released. Of course they have. Anybody who knows how to use Google can go check out the official documents released by government entities and police departments. And for whatever reason, again, the Dunning-Kruger crowd that just takes blind faith in whatever is reported on the idiot box at the time it's reported, because of course the initial reports were quite different, but the current reports are of course what the authority worshipping cultists devoutly worship, completely disregarding all logic and reason in this case. So we will be examining the anomalous roof activity. Were there even spent shell casings on the roof? I mean, there are plenty of avenues of investigation here, and of course, the truth is not afraid of investigation. The truth does not need to be silenced or covered up unless certain entities are hiding something. In that case, is this how they would behave? Would they try to gaslight all of these students into telling them they didn't see what they said they saw? As always, if you enjoyed the podcast, find it informative and interesting, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for exclusive access to streams and chats. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, like and share, spread logic and reason to a world where it is quickly becoming extinct. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons also do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttal, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. All right, let's touch upon the roof activity. So, of course, long-standing rumors, shooter on the roof, something of that nature, and police were warning of shooters on the roof. A lot of radio chatter about shooters or people on the roof. So the roof activity, very suspicious to say the least. Let's look at this post, also by Star Viego, Tapatalk forums. I don't know where this was originally posted. It says June 19th, 2005. However, this post might have been from June 30th, 2002, so not long after. The guys on the roof. Soon after the Columbine massacre commenced, police began to receive word that a shooter may be on the roof of the school. Austin Eubanks, document 18, Penny Zare, 5212, Nathan Vanderoe, 4677, and Lisa Forgan, 3008, were warned about rooftop gunmen by police. Alicia Dijnizak's dad, document 5067, overhears on a police radio that there was a shooter on the roof and they were throwing bombs. Finally, a supervisor in a white car told the officer to turn down the radio. Huh. Now, did he tell him to turn down? I don't think this is part of the conspiracy. He probably just told him to turn down the radio so these civilians wouldn't be listening to all this carnage and mayhem and death. Not because the fix was already in at that point and all the officers were in on it. That seems highly unlikely given the fact that they were telling students that there were shooters on the roof. So, let's look at his account. So, document 5067. Alicia herself was in the choir room office, 60 kids in there with no teacher. Brandon Reisbeck ran in, said there were people shooting downstairs, thought it was a senior prank, heard some bombs. Half the kids went out the doors, the other half stayed in class. Alicia was later told that the half which left went to the auditorium. They were attempting to leave. A gunman came. The group went downstairs, then went out through the commons door. In the choir room, they were at the door watching. At one point, they saw the barrel of a gun around a corner. Alicia said she saw the barrel of the gun, but she does not remember what it looked like. Alicia related she did not see the gunman. At one point, a custodian came in, told everyone to get down. Alicia related there is not a clock in the office. Wow, this is crazy. While in the room, Alicia said it became hot. She wanted to know about her sister. Alicia tried calling her parents. Foss tried to calm her down. At one point, Foss backhanded Alicia because she was getting out of control. Alicia sat down and cried. I mean, all these little details are just so tragic. Not that it could be more, how could it be more tragic than this kind of shooting? But on top of it, all these little details just really illustrate how just absolutely insane and tragic this whole incident was. And on top of all the tragedy, there's all these little details that just unfathomable. Unfathomable. So, finally, the SWAT team came. The students opened the door from the inside. They took the students out 10 by 10. When she looked at the clock, it was 3:25. Alicia's parents said she is on the video of the students leaving the school. Alicia is wearing a yellow jacket. It took the SWAT team about 10 to 15 minutes to get them all out. When they left, they went downstairs to the cafeteria. They went in front of the kitchen, then out the side door. They went up the stairs past the two guys that were dead. They ended up in a little corner at the northwest part of the building. Investigator asked Alicia when she first knew something was wrong. She indicated choir class's 5th hour. The class starts at 11:15. At about 11:30 is when they knew something was wrong. Alicia said she never saw either person involved in the shooting, of course presupposing there were only two. She only saw the gun barrel for a few seconds. Alicia also related she never heard any names being used or any statements by the suspects. In regards to the shooters, Alicia related the following. She knew Eric Harris. She had a class with him, creative writing. The teacher was Miss Kelly. She said Harris was really intelligent and always nice to her. They used to make fun of the teacher. Wow, this is dark. Alicia talked about an incident that happened several months ago, possibly after their spring break, which was from March 16th to March 20th. In creative writing, one of their papers, they were to identify a character or object as a person. In the paper written by Harris, his object was a bullet and his best friend was a shotgun. Huh. Alicia related everything Harris wrote was really dark. On the Monday before the incident, Alicia and Sarah both had lunch with Brooks Brown, whom they knew. Wow, okay, carrying on here. We got some curiosities here. Okay, so Richard then asked this investigator what information had been obtained from reference from any other participants. Richard stated that while he was at Leawood Elementary waiting for information about his two daughters, he talked with two girls who came from the school. The girls had seen two guys in the cafeteria wearing all black. There were also two guys who entered the main door from the parking lot. One was in black, the other was in white. The girls said they all had guns. We're talking about 4 people here? Two guys in the cafeteria wearing all black. Doesn't specifically say they had guns, though. Oh, it does. They all had guns. There were also 2 guys who entered the main doors from the parking lot. The 2 girls were in a group of 6 to 8 girls. Richard described the girls as one having short, darker hair, the other had medium blonde. Also talking about Anthony Samoro's account, which we talked about. This was also relayed to Richard here. Tony stated 2 suspects came in the front door and 1 came in the side door. That's a total of 3 for those that are having trouble with the math. You know what else is curious here? So we also have Stephen and Ryan Poole here. Stephen indicated when the incident started, he got in the elevator, went down. Ryan was in the cafeteria. Ryan looked at the soccer fields and saw 2 people shooting. Ryan also related they tried to trap people in the cafeteria. It's unclear whether that was simultaneous, but it's curious. So there's 2 people shooting around the soccer fields, and then there's also individuals trying to trap people in the cafeteria. How does that work? Wow. Okay, Richard, at around 12 noon, he was near a state police motorcycle, which was located at the bottom of the hill south of the school on Pierce. The officer was directing traffic and had his police radio turned up. Richard heard over the radio someone saying there was a shooter on the roof and they were throwing bombs. Finally, a supervisor in a white car told the officer to turn down his radio. Curious. So this is what Alicia's father reported. So not only just a shooter, so I guess that would be somebody identified with a gun, either with a gun shooting or just with a gun not shooting, but throwing bombs. Who was this individual at 12 noon? We don't know. Very curious. Back to the Star Viego's post here. Other students claim to have actually seen a possible gunman on the roof. Jessica Lucero, document 1508, sees a person on the roof wearing white 15 yards from the west side holding a long object. She thought he was shooting. So Jessica Lucero apparently stayed. She didn't feel well after her 10:20 class. She went to the cafeteria. She stayed in the cafeteria until 11:15. When she went to her 5th hour class. Didn't see any duffel bags or anything like that. Her 5th hour class was math class taught by Miss Hazelwood. So she left. No. So she stayed in the cafeteria until she went to her 5th hour class. So the 5th hour class starts at 11:15, so she would have left beforehand. So I guess she didn't see anything. She said she was only in class for 5 minutes when a student by the name of Amanda was released from class to go to the public restrooms. Shortly after Amanda left, she came running back to the class, telling students that she had just seen Joey Malazzo near the restrooms. He had told her she needed to get out of the school. There were men shooting inside the school. Not kids, men. She was asked if she saw gunmen in the school or any gunmen after she exited. She stated as she was running out the east doors of the high school, she believes she saw an individual dressed in black holding a gun on the roof of the school. I asked if she could provide a description of the individual. She said she couldn't. Again, to all the coincidence theorists out there, people don't identify people they don't know. When they have specific facial features and they can tell the difference between Dylan Klebold and a guy like Robert Perry, then they gave their thoughts. Maybe they were wrong, but they seemed to be very sure. She couldn't provide a description of the gun this person was carrying. She said it was not a pistol, it was a long gun. She told me she believes she saw someone, but she couldn't provide any additional information. And also, who knows how they're berating these poor witnesses? Are you sure you saw it? Are you sure? Are you sure? The gaslighting just doesn't stop. She couldn't provide any information on Harris or Klebold. The only other person she knew was involved in the group was a female that had a nickname of Devil Girl. Wow. So, there's her account. Candace Cushman, document 2794, sees a guy with a black trench coat on the roof. He was aiming a gun. document 2794. This is her handwritten statement. Although the officer taking the statement... Officer taking the statement dated May 6th, but this is written in her handwriting. I was sitting in the Commons, okay, in the back, rebel corner. I was talking to Mr. Sanders about basketball camp. I was walking back from the lunch line and everyone yelled, "Get down." I hesitated. Mr. Sanders said, "Candace, get down." Everyone started to get out. I got stuck in the back. One guy got shot and I ran through the auditorium and caught up with the people I had been with. When we got outside, I saw someone on the roof with what I thought was a black trench coat. He was aiming a gun, so Erica, Nick, and I ran toward the smoker's pit. We tried to run home, but the cops had us sit on the lawn. My aunt was at the corner in the car, and she drove me home. About 10 minutes before it started, I saw two guys in trench coats sitting on the stairs by the faculty lounge. Also curious. She described on the daily announcements the thought of the day was "wish you weren't here." So that's her count. No follow-up interview. Nobody wants to know about the shooter on the roof that they thought was shooting at him, or the trench coat guys hanging out in the faculty lounge. No one seems to care. Okay. Michelle Fox, document 5194, sees a person on the roof wearing white 15 yards from the west side holding a long object. She thought he was shooting. Eastern edge above the math hallway entry. Lindsay Conwell, document 2760. Also sees someone on the roof. I mean, these are not just a couple kids hallucinating. There seems to be a lot of individuals who saw someone on the roof with a long gun. Eric Sunday's friend, Rusty, apparently no formal interview, sees two guys on the roof as he's driving out of the parking lot. Then the back window of his car is shot out. I guess they didn't want to publicize his interview. Shelby Myers, 3862, possibly hears gunfire originating from the roof as she flees from the main entrance. Okay, so apparently she did not see a subject, but she heard gunfire, possibly from the roof. So these are a number of individuals here who are spotting roof activity. Then you also have that radio chatter over the police radio. After fleeing the cafeteria, Philip Vendreau, 5991, runs down the gym hallway upstairs to the northeast exit doors. He sees dirt up by his feet, which he thinks is from gunshots. That's terrifying. By this time, Harris and Klebold were supposed to be inside the school, so those shots have to originate from a third shooter lingering on the west edge of the school or from someone on the roof. Let's not forget firefighter Phillip Takaz, who said he saw a picture that showed spent shell casings up on the roof. Who was on the roof? Trista Fogarty, document 1420, says a sophomore named Scott, unknown, said he saw Eric Harris go through the custodian's roof access, then go out onto the roof. Officially, though, the only person up on the roof that day before 1:40 p.m. entry by the Lakewood PD was HVAC service person Chris Clark, document 745. He tells us that he was up there to fix a leak above the girls' locker room on the northwest edge of the building, although teacher Barbara Ann Hirokawa, document 5460, says she was told by one of the county maintenance guys that he was there to repair the dark room fan located above her photography class on the eastern side of the school. A lot of conflicting stories here. In his initial interview on April 20th, he told the investigative officers he was inside the school when the shooting broke out and that he ran up the custodian's roof access to escape. In a later... How would it go? Escape from the roof? In a later interview, he says he was already on top of the roof when the first shots were heard, and that he used the roof hatch in the hallway just north of the library. At any rate, he didn't see any shooters when he finally peers over the edge, nor does he mention running to the east side of the school, which is where people in the math science classes hear running and thumping sounds above them. Nichols, document 3907, Steele, document 2201, Morris, 1569, and Marr, document 2029. So they hear, in the math science classes, they hear running and thumping above them. So that would be the roof. Weird. Clark says he stayed put until a uniformed police officer pulled a van alongside the school, helped him off the roof by the north side of the school. Odd that he doesn't recognize his own service van, which DPO Wayne Depew commandeered with the keys conveniently in the ignition to rescue him. Odd, too, that no other police officers, first responders, saw this rooftop rescue taking place, including the ones that Depew says were with him at the time. Document 7990. Huh. What does this mean? Are people trying to implicate Clark here? That he was somehow involved or he could have been the shooter and then pretended not to be and just an innocent maintenance man? Or did Eric Harris himself go on the roof, get some shooting done, even though officially that's nowhere in the official timeline? Or was it yet another shooter? Again, we don't know. It's kind of hard to say that all these students, police officers, everyone was hallucinating about a possible shooter on the roof throwing bombs. Weird. Final thought, DPO Gutierrez, document 8010, is on the west side of Columbine when he sees one student who jumped from the roof of the school building and apparently broke his hip. He tried to run but couldn't and began crawling. Gutierrez pulls him in the front seat of the patrol car, takes him and other students to triage. We never get his name. But if the story is true, we very possibly have a shooter who sustained an injury. Any guesses? Ha! Let's look at Gutierrez's account here because this is absolutely mind-shocking. So he's a first responder for Denver PD. His handwriting's actually not too bad. This is April 21st, 8:30 document. On this date of report, approximately 11:35, myself and Officer Romero of the Gang Bureau responded to Columbine High School on a call of officer and students being fired upon and calling for assistance. Upon arrival at the scene, we were told to go to the west side of the school building, as this is where all the gunfire was reported to be coming from. Myself, Romero, Sergeant Benton, and Sergeant Drajan responded immediately to this location. This area is where the school cafeteria and the school library are located. We immediately came upon 7 severely wounded students, some with devastating wounds, and female hit approximately 7 times, 1 male with a severe stomach wound, 1 female with her shoulder blown out. My concern was to get medical attention to the other people these people as soon as possible. We came under heavy gunfire at this time and took cover. After the gunfire subsided, 2 more police units pulled in and we began loading the wounded students into the back seats, and we were able to get all of them out to safety. Officer Tran Thomas and Jeffco Sheriff were instrumental in helping on this. Romero responded to the front of the school cafeteria area and deployed his AR-15 rifle. Officer Romero responded to the front of the school cafeteria area and deployed his AR-15 rifle. Officer Romero was instrumental in saving numerous students in this position. We came under heavy automatic weapons. Let me repeat that again for the coincidence theorists. We came under heavy automatic weapons fire again from the library area. And I did hear a dull explosion at this time. So are we to say that this individual, this EMT first responder, trains with police, are we saying he's too dumb to understand the difference between full auto and semi-auto fire? Or he'd be if he couldn't tell the difference, he would just put under fire like he did previously. Now he's stating at this point in time, they came under heavy automatic weapons fire. Okay. At this time, officers Drajan and Romero returned suppression fire as we had students running through the parking lot trying to escape. So in which direction is this suppression fire? So is he saying these officers are shooting into the library or the cafeteria or the roof, other areas of the school? How does suppression fire work? What is the official narrative here? That officers did not fire into the school? Drajan and Romero returned suppression fire as we had students running through the parking lot trying to escape. One student jumped from the roof of the school building and apparently broke his hip. He tried to run but couldn't and began crawling. Myself, with a Jeffco sheriff's deputy, drove to the edge of the parking lot, pulled him into the front of the police unit, and also put approximately 5 students in the back seat, drove off to a medical aid location. We responded back to our location and continued evacuating survivors out of the school throughout the day, now with the assistance of SWAT teams who were now on the scene. Let me repeat that again for the coincidence theorists. One student jumped from the roof of the school building. One more time. Just coincidence theorists are usually devout in their blind faith and official narratives. One student jumped from the roof of the school building. Now, was this student a shooter? Or was it someone who ran onto the roof, escaped, never been identified, no follow-up, nothing? Weird. I mean, this is a first responder, Gutierrez. This is not some kid with zero experience in the school. This is a professional first responder making this account. Just a lot of interesting statements there. They're under full auto fire from the library. Officers are returning and providing suppression fire. He doesn't state exactly where, but if they're under full auto fire from the library, where would the suppression fire to help them be shooting into? So are these officers shooting into the library where students are? I mean, obviously this is not an easy situation by any stretch of the imagination. It's bizarre, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. That's the point I'm making here. Interesting questions, follow-up posters here. Eric Sunday's friend Rusty sees 2 guys on the roof as he's driving out the parking lot. Back window, his car is shut out. Okay. The question here, were there any ballistic tests performed to see if it would have been possible for the bullet to have originated from where Eric and Dylan were at the time of this event? Or was the car located at a place where only a rooftop gunman would have reached it? Good question, exactly the type that bothered investigative officers and caused them to head another direction. If the evidence don't point at Harrison Klebold, I don't want to hear about it. There is no indication this lead was ever followed up on. So, very typical. I mean, I'm still reeling from Gutierrez's account. I mean, come on, this is a first responder making an official report. From all accounts, this is not his first day on the job. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. So, regarding Phillip Takaz, so this is an article from the Columbine to a federal prison, May 1st, 2001. Last year, CRTF received information from a man named Phillip Takaz, who at the time was a fireman for the Versailles Fire Department in Kentucky. In mid-July of 99, he attended a class in Lexington on firefighter safety in police situations. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms participated in the class. The agent who gave the class, William Donovan, is based in Washington, D.C., semi-retired, and is only involved in large cases. He was present at Columbine High 3 days after the shootings. Donovan presented to the class a number of forensic pictures from Columbine. One picture showed between 6 to 10 shell casings on the roof of the school. Takaz says the casings were large, likely 223 cal. They were not 9mm or shotgun casings as used by Harrison Klebold. Let me say that one more time for the coincidence theorists. One picture showed between 6 to 10 casings on the roof of the school. Takaz says the casings were large, likely 223 cal. They were not 9mm or shotgun casings, which were used by Harrison Klebold. The BATF instructor would not comment on who fired from the roof. Takaz says that during the shooting, on television coverage, he remembers hearing reports of someone firing from the roof. Those reports quickly vanished, but surfaced again in the recently released 11,000 pages of evidence. There is no plausible reason why a SWAT team or any other figure in authority would have fired from the roof that day. The only possibility is that another shooter, not Harris or Klebold, fired those shots. Another picture presented to the class showed the body of Eric Harris as he lay in the library. His skull was fractured from a gunshot wound. Harris's pants were missing. And Takaz says that the BATF instructor wouldn't tell us why he wasn't wearing pants. I found that very unusual. Wait, I don't believe anybody else reported that, though, did they? The other students said they were just bodies. Nobody said anybody's pants were missing. Other pictures, so at which point were these photos taken? This was how many hours after the fact? After the bodies were moved? Other pictures were shown of exploded pipe bombs and damage throughout the school. The instructor said the night before the shooting, Harris and Klebold used the Harris home garage to break glass which was placed in the pipe bombs. Someone in the class asked whether or not Wayne Harris was involved in some way, and the instructor said he felt he was not involved. He also said that the backpacks were found with explosives in them, but he would not elaborate as to whom they belonged to. The instructor said that the 3 students arrested the day of the shooting outside of the school were not directly involved in the school, though they were close friends of Harris. What is directly involved versus indirectly? Some of the class participants asked Donovan if there were more than 2 people involved in the shooting, and he responded to the class that it was feasible that more were involved. That's curious. So, semi-retired ATF agent William Donovan in the year 2000. Oh, this was actually mid-July 99. Mid-July 99. He said it was feasible. Takaz said the instructor responded by saying that off the record, he knew for a fact that there were more people involved. Whoa, we are in Mindshock territory. So again, if we are to take the word of Takaz here, he says that the instructor responded that saying off the record, he knew for a fact that there were more people involved. Takaz recounts the incident. From what we saw in the pictures, we all agreed that there had to be more than 2 gunmen. I asked the instructor if he believed only 2 kids did this, and he finally answered me and said off the record he knows that there were more involved. CRTF has talked with Mr. Phillip Takaz over the phone, and he has reaffirmed his story first related to us through an email. Furthermore, one of Mr. Takaz's associates, who was present during the class, has emailed us and confirmed Takaz's story. He told us, I don't remember a whole lot, to be honest. The guy showed us slides from Columbine. Most of them were bombs that had gone off, spent shell casings on the roof. Phil asked him if he thought that only 2 of them did this. I don't recall the exact answer, but he said it was very possible. Phil told us that the instructor finally said that he knew for a fact that there were more involved. The following is a copy of one of Mr. Takaz's emails. In mid-July of this year, I attended a class for the fire department in my area addressing firefighter safety at police situations. The last speaker was a man who worked for the ATF. He is an explosives expert, and he was telling us about the booby traps and the sort. He brought along several slides from the shooting at Columbine. He said he was there by the 3rd day to help with identifying some of the devices. Apparently this was till 2000, so he was there in mid-July. Oh, no, this was mid-July 99. Yeah, mid-July was the class. He was there 3 days after the shooting in April. Okay. He said he was there by the 3rd day to help with identifying some of the devices. Most of the pictures were of bombs that had already exploded and a few that had not. The one thing that I remember was a picture on the roof. It was of what he said where one of the pipe bombs had gone off. In the picture, you could clearly see at least 6 to 10 shell casings as well. Someone did ask about that, but he never really gave an answer. The casings looked too big to be from a 9mm. Like the ones that were used. Also was a picture of Eric Harris's body. Someone asked where his pants were. Again, no straight answer. At the end of the class, we asked him if he thought there were more than 2 involved. In front of the whole class, he said, it is quite feasible. I talked to him alone before we all left and asked him again. He said, off the record, I know that there were more directly involved. He didn't specifically say if he meant a 3rd gunman or if they had helped making the bombs that numbered over 60. He also did state that he doubted that Eric's father had helped them with the incident. I found him to be very sincere. At the time, I didn't realize how important his statements were. In a bizarre twist of events, Phillip Takaz was arrested April 25th, 2000. Wow, almost on the anniversary. Apparently in his home in Versailles for allegedly making bomb threats over the internet. The threats allegedly stemmed from Takaz's instant messenger screen name, schoolshooter_2000. Using this screen name, he posed as a student from Colorado and claimed he would enact another shooting on April 20th. Takaz said he would target a school in Arvada, Colorado. He apparently did not make any specific threats. Investigators found an assault rifle, handgun, and an instruction manual on how to make bombs in his home. He was not in possession of illegal weapons or bomb-making materials. It does not appear he was preparing to enact a shooting. After his arrest, a number of articles were released by the Kentucky Post and Lexington Herald-Leader. They confirmed Takaz was in fact a volunteer member of the Versailles Fire Department, although he quit late last year. He is 23 years old, lives alone in Versailles. No further information about his background was reported by the newspapers. CRTF corresponded with Takaz for months prior to his arrest and found him to be helpful and stable. He even helped us obtain vital CNN footage of Columbine. He also made attempts to contact the Jeffco Sheriff's Office and asked for an explanation of the pictures he had seen at the class. His story never changed, and we felt he was telling the truth about the class he attended. On May 5th, Takaz was indicted by a Kentucky grand jury. He faces charges of up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. A CRTF source was in contact with Takaz's mother, Carol, who lives in Chicago. She expressed dismay over the incident. She said Takaz was en route to Atlanta and from there would depart for North Carolina for psychological testing. This is weird. June 13th, CRTF spoke with Carol Takaz, Phillip Takaz's mother, over the phone. She reported that Mr. Takaz is currently in North Carolina Federal Prison, where he will undergo psychological testing sometime within the next month. It is hoped that after the testing is finished, Mr. Takaz will be released from prison where he awaits trial. The charges against Takaz stem from an internet user who informed the FBI of a threat made by a chat room participant named schoolshooter_2000. The vague threat implied a shooting or bombing would take place at an Arvada, Colorado high school. The FBI traced the identity of the chat room participant to Mr. Takaz through AT&T. Mr. Takaz's internet provider is AT&T WorldNet. Carol said Phillip denies the charges. She said he was in good spirits from what she would surmise from the few phone conversations they had. She tends to believe him and sees no reason why he would make such threats. Carol says so far their lawyer remains inactive as the evidence relating to the case, including Mr. Takaz's computer hard drive, is in possession of the authorities. The authorities failed to recover any evidence from Mr. Takaz's home indicating he was planning on fulfilling the alleged threat. It also does not appear a threat was ever made to an Arvada high school during the latter part of April. It remains unclear whether or not Takaz had a chat room screen name of schoolshooter_2000. It is wholly possible a disgruntled chat room user decided to frame Takaz and claims he made a threat when he did not. It is also possible the charges against Takaz are completely accurate. I mean, you would think they would have those details, though. The nature of the internet, and especially chat rooms found on the internet, is that it is difficult to determine not only the identity of a chat room participant, but also the intent of what they're communicating. Most often, a chat room is a place where people go to vent their feelings and make off-the-cuff comments not normally acceptable in normal situations. Even if the charges against Mr. Takaz are true, we certainly do not feel they warrant a prison term. The latest information on Mr. Takaz's condition was received through a phone conversation with Carol Takaz, April 26, 2001. She said Phillip has been imprisoned in the Federal Medical Center in Lexington since January of this year. He will be released October 3rd, 2001. Phillip passed his psychological test with flying colors and was found to be of completely stable mental condition and a non-threat. Despite this, he was placed in a medium to maximum security prison because authorities felt he was too great a threat for a lower security prison. Carroll said during his sentencing, the prosecution presented evidence against Phillip in the form of pages and pages of confusing internet chat room dialogue allegedly made by schoolshooter_2000. It's also curious, I mean, can they even, if they can prove that that was his username and that was from his IP, then they got something. If they can't, or did they just mix and match different posts and then say that them together out of order was some kind of threat, even if he was talking about something else? I mean, who knows? Phillip pleaded guilty to the charges in hope of gaining a lighter sentence. Carol said the judge at Phillip's hearing seems to have a bias against Phillip. Carol says she believes her son is innocent. She finds the charges against him to be not even that big a deal and is dismayed at the fervor in which the government went after her son. Authorities found nothing in Phillip's home to implicate him in a bomb plot, let alone anything illegal. Carol gave us Phillip's address at the prison, and he had requested she contact us. She said he was interested in getting a copy of the JCSO final report. We believe Mr. Takaz is unfairly imprisoned and likely innocent of his alleged crimes. We also trust the veracity of information Mr. Takaz revealed to us in late 99 concerning the Columbine High School shooting. We believe the important information he possesses concerning the shooting may have had some connection as to why he was arrested and imprisoned for these laughable charges. That's curious, yeah, if he was framed for this and someone else used his IP or cloned his IP, like someone, for example, if this is a high-ranking government conspiracy in upper agencies, they could easily clone his IP and make posts in the forum, have somebody, one of their own, in the forum, or even somebody else report him to the police, then all of a sudden the IP matches him, and then they got him even though he's innocent. So if there is a conspiracy, would they do this? I don't know. Another interesting document here, 111, we didn't go over this. Nicole Nowlin said during the time frame about 11:45 a.m., she believed she observed someone on the roof of the school, but she could not provide a description of that individual. Nicole Nolan said her observation was later confirmed when she heard others near where she was located making similar comments. So a bunch of people saw somebody on the roof, a possible gunman. From NicoleNowlin.com, her website, we had to wait there for another cop car to come get us and get us some medical attention. While waiting, we saw one of the shooters on the roof sort of patrolling the area from up top. What? And this is also curious. I'm not the only one who noticed this. Notice how it went from shooter in Nicole's own version to someone in the version written down by her interviewing officer. Nothing like distorting an eyewitness account to fit the official theory. I wonder how badly they mangled the other important 11K interviews. And of course, I went over them. I went over all these interviews where you could see what the witnesses wrote in their own handwriting, and then you could see how that was morphed by the officers typing up a report. Also, interview with Donna Taylor. Mark told her, Donna, he saw another man on the roof with a gun while laying on the ground. There was videotape of that, but they've thrown it in the trash. Comment, I have talked to another researcher who was able to talk to Mark personally. He mentioned that he was initially shot by someone outside the school, but then was shot repeatedly by the rooftop gunman. He then backed off this statement as though he realized he had let this info slip out. Huh. So, Mark Taylor's original interview is not included in the 11K report, curiously. I mean, there's so many curiosities with this. It's really weird. Now, in the documents that we do have, document 263, Taylor advised the investigators that though he only observed two suspects, he recalls having a feeling that there was a third person there. And again, this is a typed up report. We don't know what Mark Taylor said to the investigative officer. This is what the officer is typing up. Taylor added it was just a feeling and that he could not recall seeing a third person. So again, the crucial interview missing here. Just another one of these coincidences in the Columbine case. So this is from Zabel's website, columbineconspiracy.com/roofsus.html. I don't know if this website is still up, but the next statement is from a non-Columbine witness who, along with her boss, believed she saw at least two people on the roof of Columbine High. Karen Drinnan and her boss, Mike Valerio, who worked near Columbine, were using a telescope on April 20th, 1999, to view the roof of the school during the shooting. This occurred at between 11:30 and 11:45 a.m. Karen described one of the men on the roof as wearing a white long-sleeved shirt with a red stripe and the other in a short-sleeved white shirt with a red stripe. Huh. So this is document 18701. Karen Drinnan advised she and her boss saw two males on the roof of Columbine High between 11:30 and 11:45 a.m., one in a short-sleeved white shirt and a second subject in a white long-sleeved shirt with a red stripe. Drinnan and her boss watched through a telephoto lens on video camera. She does not know if videotape was made by her boss, Mike Valerio. That would be curious if there was a videotape, and was this a tape that was previously referred to that had been confiscated or destroyed? On the bottom of the lead sheet here is stopped watching activity at school from third-story office building 1 mile south of the school, looking through a video camera at 2 people on roof of school, unable to obtain physical characteristics, stated her boss, Mike Valerio, had possession of tape. From the interview with Mike Valerio, people on the roof, most likely SWAT officers, approximate time of observation was 2:30 to 2 p.m. So did they change this? Because the original report here is between 11:30 and 11:45. All of a sudden, that gets changed to meet the narrative, but the SWAT team were not wearing white shirts with red stripes. Huh. And then where's the videotape to prove that? Possibly with a timestamp. Some comments here from Star Viego. I believe repairman Chris Clark was identified wearing a red, white, and blue shirt. So it looked like Drinnan and her boss saw Clark and maybe the white t-shirt guy together on the roof, which makes Clark a liar and hence very possibly one of the covert operators on scene. There was a videotape of that, but they've thrown that in the trash, said Mark Taylor. At any rate, they are never going to release this one if it exists. Also curious is these are office workers, again, these are adult professionals who are specifically looking at the school through a telescope. There's no fog of war. They're not in the middle of chaos and destruction. They're just curious. They want to see what's going on. They observe this. Very curious. Wow. So this document is not currently available, but someone had an excerpt from this document. MSNBC TV witness. This document is 14,013 for anybody that can find it. This young lady was interviewed. She told how it was the beginning of her lunch hour. She needed to go out to her car to get her makeup. She asked another female student to walk with her. As they were walking, she indicated seeing a heavy-set student with dark hair or a mustache who was up on the roof of the school wearing a trench coat, and with him was another student wearing a t-shirt. So this whole narrative of it was just Klebold and Harris, one of them was wearing a trench coat, one wasn't. Yet here are all these other sightings, including on the roof. Weird. Was that possibly Brian Sargent? Because he does have a little bit of a mustache according to some. Joe Stair obviously does have a mustache. So Mark Taylor's story, published November 6, 2000 on CRTF, as Mark lay bleeding, he could hear shots that sounded as though they were coming from the roof. At least one shooter on the roof, Mark told CRTF, noting that although he did not see anyone on the roof, the sounds of the gunfire were distinctly coming from the direction above the cafeteria. Tony Martinez, parent, this is document 7535. Before 11:45, he saw a male crawling in the grass of Clement Park. Tony said this individual, whom he described as a white adult male, said there's a sniper on the roof, after which he began crawling around on his stomach. Tony said he remembers hearing a single gunshot at the time, which sounded as though it had originated from outside of the school. Tony said that he looked toward the school, but never saw anyone on the roof at any time. Curious. So there's an adult male crawling in the grass before 11:45 a.m. stating there's a sniper on the roof. Okay. Valerio's interview, tips M-Z, between 1:30 and 2, he saw 2 people on the roof just east of the South Main entrance. One of them was wearing a dark coat and appeared to be holding a rifle. Valerio stated the 2 individuals were not very active during their short time on the roof. They appeared to move around carefully behind the ductwork and held a brief conversation. He believed they were law enforcement and stated there were numerous helicopters that would have been able to see them. And where's all the helicopter footage, by the way? There's a lot of helicopter footage from that day. Where is it? Okay, he acknowledged he did tape some of the activity, but not sure if he got the 2 individuals on tape. After watching it, the interviewing officer said the video did not show any suspects. The timestamp was 1:57. Valerio stated the activity could have occurred 1 hour earlier due to the fact that he may have not adjusted his camera in accordance with recent time change. That's convenient as well. Joey Marcotte, document 10,013. At about 1:45, she saw a male in a black jacket on the roof. Brian Powell, meeting the Wishner family, 2001. Nearby resident said, "The photo this man took of the person on the roof of the school appears to be a man with a mask on. Powell said this man was in sort of a stance, just sitting there for a while." Huh. So there is the famous image of the man observed on roof, thought to be possible sniper. You really can't see much. It's hard to tell exactly what that is. Is that a guy with some kind of white and or red shirt? Does he have a mask on? I don't know. So there you have it. Plenty of roof activity. A seemingly never-ending stream of reports of something going on the roof. What was it? And why does it need to be covered up? Curious questions, as always, in the Columbine Conspiracy series. Plenty more to cover. We're actually not even close to done. I mean, this is just a truly anomalous case with so many holes in the official narrative. I mean, to call it Swiss cheese would be an understatement. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, find it interesting and informative, want to help support the podcast, bring logic and reason to a world where it is quickly becoming extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, a like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.